Have you here. Always glad to have this guy back. He's my congressman. It's Chip Roy, great state of Texas. Chip, how are you?
I'm doing great, Joe. It's great to be on your show, and I hope you're doing well. And we still got to get that beer, my friend, but glad to be on the show.
We got to make that happen. The thing is, we're social distancing, so I'm not really sure when that's going to end. But let's jump into a bunch of stuff. I just read an article a little while ago by Newsweek, I think it was. And Newsweek says, wow, Dems are really pushing hard in Texas. They set a record by contacting 2 million voters in Texas. And Chip, I don't know what that means, that they contacted them, if they texted them, because I get texts all the time. You sent me a text the other day that not from your personal, phone that I know would be you. This is like from the campaign. So that happens a lot. Is that considered a contact? Are you worried at all that Democrats are contacting so many Texans?
Well, I'm not worried at all from that standpoint. Democrats are reaching to Texas. We need to be very cognizant of that reality that Democrats believe that they can flip Texas. And if we sit back on our haunches and we don't do what we're supposed to do, we could very well lose some seats that we shouldn't lose, or we could have the president underperform. But the fact is, touches are numbers that anybody can throw around and use. We sent a bunch of emails to a whole bunch of people. Well, that's 2 million contacts.
Yeah.
That's not, or how many tweets do you put out that how many people see? What really matters is when you're going door to door and you're talking to people and you're reaching voters, you're reaching people directly. I know we're doing that. I saw some stuff today that some pro-life organization, I don't even know what, was putting out about Wendy Davis and where she comes from on that issue. And we're doing, I think, a lot of really great work. And a lot of my colleagues are taking this all very seriously. And my message to everybody in Texas is, take it seriously, right? The old adage is run scared or run unopposed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. And we're running scared so that we make sure we win it.
Exactly right. It's Chip Roy, District 21 Republican, the great state of Texas. What's interesting is in the 15 years I've been here, Texas has changed a lot. It used to be that Houston was Democrat, it was blue, but Harris County was red. It used to be, well, that's not that way anymore. It used to be the outskirts and the rural areas of just about any big city. You had the big city was very blue. You had the outskirts were very red. It was also, you could always count on them to be more conservative. It's starting to expand now to where Harris County is now blue. It's starting to expand now where we know Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, El Paso, all the big cities in our state are very blue. Again, I'm not scared, although in the political, ideology, I guess running scared makes sense. But when you see that happening, do you think to yourself, why is that happening? Because Texas, as most of America, is really center right. It's a little bit center, a little bit right. They're very moderate. Why is it turning so blue in the metropolis areas?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure we know that that's a long-term phenomenon as much as some sort of cycles that we're having in politics, right? We all know, it's not just Texas, that college-educated folks in the suburbs, they've been kind of leaning a little bit more centrist in some ways as opposed to, deep, bright red Texas.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What are the issues that are at play right now? Safety, security, communities, law enforcement being able to do their job,
yes.
Not having lawlessness running amok like Seattle, Chicago, New York. I read a study yesterday that 1 million people are going to be leaving New York City. 1 million people. And would you blame them? De Blasio, Cuomo, they've turned that place, which is a vibrant city, the center point of commerce for the United States of America. They've turned it upside down. I saw an 8-year-old girl watch her black father get gunned down in broad daylight in the streets of New York. I saw a 1-year-old black baby getting killed in New York, a 3-year-old black baby getting killed in Chicago, an 8-year-old little girl, black, getting killed in a car turning around in Atlanta, Georgia, a 19-year-old young man, black, getting killed in a so-called autonomous zone. The American people don't want that. I can promise you Texans don't want that. That we're going to be running on making sure our communities are safe and secure, that we're securing our border from cartels and the dangerousness of narcotics, and the Democratic Party wants none of that. They want to run on social justice. They want to run on whatever that, is the latest and greatest from the Green New Deal or whatever that AOC and Wendy Davis and Nancy Pelosi have cooked up from the radical left, and most Americans don't want that, and I think that'll shine in November.
I think people around the country probably have heard the name Wendy Davis. Wendy Davis is famous for doing a so-called filibuster while wearing a catheter at the state capitol in Austin several years ago, and it was because she wanted more abortions, and she didn't want any sort of safety and security for women that I guess the doctors had the ability to actually enter them into the hospital if something should go wrong. She also didn't want us to have a 20-week limit to when after 20 weeks gestation you can't abort anymore. She did that for hours and hours and hours and became nationally famous. She got a lot of money injected into the state and still lost by 20 points to Greg Abbott for the governor's office. Why does somebody like that, do you think, and maybe generally, maybe specifically about Wendy Davis, why does she keep on showing back up? Why is she the favorite daughter of the left in the country? And again, there are people from way outside your district, Chip, that are supporting her against you. Why is that?
Well, she keeps showing up because, frankly, I'm not sure she has anything else to do. But her job choice was choosing between whether she wanted to go run Planned Parenthood or whether she wanted to take another shot at elective office.
Right.
If the DCCC and Democrats want to set a big pile of money on fire in the streets of Austin, more power to them. The people of this district, they don't want a radical Marxist leftist like Wendy Davis representing them. She's very clearly not come out in support of law enforcement. She's very clearly not drawn a line in the sand and said that Antifa is bad. She's very clearly in favor of sanctuary cities, not in favor of securing our border. She's in favor of Green New Deal type policies. She's going to fit right in with the swamp tactics of Nancy Pelosi and all the others that don't have the interest of the American people in mind. Look, this is something where it's a cultural thing. It's they fit into the club. It's, hey, look, I get it. I'm perfectly happy with whatever it is that Washington, D.C. and all these cultural Marxists want to do to tell you how to live your lives. Take schools, for example. Do you think I would send my 10-year-old son or 9-year-old daughter to schools next Thursday, believing that it was in their not in their best interest or that it would somehow endanger them?
Right.
But yet the leftists want to say, oh, you just want to throw everybody to the wolves, and as if I don't know what's in the best interest of my kids. Right. Yesterday, I saw a tweet from a teacher who was lamenting the fact that parents are now watching what they're saying, and they're concerned it might infringe or inhibit their ability, essentially, to indoctrinate children with the social justice stuff.
No, I reported that last night. That was out of Philadelphia, and that's true. And this might be a different story than what you saw, but you're exactly right. Teachers have publicly and vocally on social media said, we're afraid of more home, sort of internet schooling, online schooling, because parents can now hear what we're doing, and they can hear what we're saying, and they can correct us to their children if we go against their value system. Right. Conservative parents are a problem, Chip. They literally said that. We can't control your child's mind if you're involved. That's scary.
It's very scary, and it's very real, and I'm hopeful that this veil is being lifted. Look, let me be clear to all your listeners. I'm public school K through law school, Joe.
Yeah.
My wife was K through law school, public school, A&M and UT for law. And she was raised by a single mom. She went to a good public school system, and that school system wasn't at war with our values. Yeah. But there's been a transformation over the last decade, 2, 3, in which we've now got people who are directly at war with our values, and they're not hiding it. Right? What I said before about who fits in the club, they're not even whispering this anymore. Like, I tell you one thing, if they're sitting in some little coffee shop listening to lame music, wearing skinny jeans, whispering to each other about what they want to do to pull the wool over the eyes of all these parents,
right.
Okay, sit in your little coffee shop doing that. But they're actually doing it fully openly on Twitter, in social media. And by the way, is Twitter going to ban any of that? Is Twitter going to say, hey, you teachers, you have an obligation to parents? Are they going to go stop them from talking about all of their indoctrination techniques?
No chance.
No, they're going to ban you. They're going to ban people for saying things that are publicly available that people ought to be able to see.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm glad you did the segue. It's District 21 Republican Chip Roy, great state of Texas. He's my member of Congress, and I hope that he gets reelected. For me, I'm out of Twitter now for 2 weeks, as you know. And what I posted was, in response to somebody giving me a hard time about an interview that I did, I said, hashtag hydroxychloroquine worked. And I actually even put in a link to the study from the Yale epidemiologist that said we can save a bunch of lives if we use it. Now, even if it doesn't work for coronavirus, and I believe anecdotally I know it works, but empirically they're still testing it. But even if I didn't write the word coronavirus, nor did I write COVID-19. I just said hydroxychloroquine works. Well, Chip, for 65 years it's been approved by the FDA because it works. It works on malaria, it works on lupus, it works on arthritis. So the idea that I wrote something factual, and the response from Twitter was, the World Health Organization guidelines say you can't say that, delete the tweet and I'll let you back on. I'm still out for 2 weeks. As a member of Congress, and I talked to Cruz about this, I talked to Will Hurd about this, I've talked to many members of Congress and many really big people on social media with millions and millions of followers. Can we literally not do anything when this website gets an immunity from liability and gets all the benefits that come with that? They don't have to worry about being sued about anything that's on there. Can we literally not do anything when they say, we're going to stop you from telling the truth, Joe Pags, because we don't agree with your truth?
Well, first of all, let me answer your question about that second. First, I just want to say, sort of in solidarity with you, that what you were talking about is a very reasonable thing to be talking about.
Right.
And it is unconscionable that the United States of America, that someone in the free flow and free exchange of ideas is talking about whether hydroxychloroquine may or may not work for different circumstances, and that somehow is banned is absolutely absurd. We know, you talked about the Yale epidemiologist, Dr. Risch, I think is his name.
Yeah.
He has been out there talking about studies showing that it may or may, that it may work in certain circumstances. We know, as you said, it's out there for malaria. We know, as you said, it's out there for lupus. It is over the counter in dozens or hundreds of countries all over the world. Whether or not it works fully, completely, partially, for what groups for this virus, I don't know.
Big
but
study,
we ought to have the right to try.
Yeah.
Like, let's not talk about free speech. How about the right to try? How about the right to be able to take care of yourself or your family, going to the doctor without having a bureaucrat, insurance or government bureaucrat getting between you and your doctor?
And by the way, right to try, as you know, because you're involved in this, is the law. Yeah. It's actually been passed as law. And by the way, back to me for a second, because Chip, you know it's all about me. It always is. I'm the press. The First Amendment covers my ability to say what I said. I'm in the media. There is really no argument. Not that I'm better than anybody. I, however, am not being able to use my First Amendment right that Twitter says it upholds for everybody. Antifa can gather on Twitter. Black Lives Matter, the organization, can gather on Twitter. Let's go burn down the courthouse can be posted on Twitter. The Ayatollah in Iran can say death to the Jews and death to America on Twitter. I can't say as a member of the press, hydroxychloroquine works. Help me understand.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And that's getting to your second point. It's absolutely unconscionable. All those things you just outlined, the number of things that are said every day. Now, look, if Twitter wants to just back off and get out of the censoring business, besides, some very extreme graphic kinds of things, pornography, whatever it might be in terms of who can see it when, all of that stuff, but within reason, you shouldn't get any political discourse. They're now getting into the business. And to answer your question, Congress absolutely has an obligation to make sure that they're not getting any political advantages, liability protections or otherwise, in terms of whether they're designated a publisher or not. If they're making decisions about content, then they need to be held liable for those decisions.
Right.
And I think we ought to have those conversations. I'm not a big antitrust guy, but we ought to start having those conversations. We're now got these companies that have these massive footprints. They're controlling a significant amount of the information flow that gets out to the American people. I want more competition, not less. So I think Facebook, Twitter, all of these different social media platforms need to start being very careful about how much they're censoring political thought, political rhetoric, or we're going to have to take a look at what benefits they get from government. Again, neither you nor I are big on regulation. We don't want government to get in the way.
Right.
I want free flow and competition. But if they're going to ask for some sort of favors from the federal government, then maybe we ought to look at them if they're not going to play by the rules that they should be playing by.
District 21 Republican, the great state of Texas, Chip Roy. Chip, one last thing. First of all, what is the website for people to go and check out for your re-election campaign? Is it chiproy.org? What is it?
It's chiproy.com, CHIPROY.com. I appreciate that. Any contribution, greatly appreciated. I'm $1 million behind Wendy Davis. We're doing great. We're approaching 3 million raised.
Right.
We got a lot of enthusiasm in the district, but they're serious about it. And we got to make sure in Texas we all show up. So chiproy.com. Appreciate any help.
Got 30, maybe 45 seconds. Just give me something that you're working on right now that the people watching and listening across the country should know about.
Well, I'll give you two things really quickly. I've got a PPP extension bill. I passed one in June, as you know, a little backbencher Republican. We got a bipartisan bill with a Minnesota Democrat through to help all these small businesses struggling. I've now got a PPP bipartisan extension bill, but Democrats aren't giving us the time to meet. We're not meeting and doing our job. The second thing is I've got a bill that would have dollars go straight to parents. Rather than having those dollars go to these school districts that are refusing to teach our kids, the dollars should go straight to the parents so that they can make decisions and let the parents choose. Those are two things that I think are freedom-oriented things that we should do.
Yeah, 100%. It's Chip Roy, District 21 Republican, the great state of Texas. Make sure you go and vote. We'll have to really dive into mail-in ballots next time. We're frankly out of time. Chip, I appreciate you. Thank you for the work you do for our state and for this country. I appreciate you.
Hey, we're going to stand up for America. That's it. That's what this election's about, standing up for America.
All right, brother.